What's up, Switch? Woo! Trying to get my MacBook on here. Here we go. Here we go. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate y'all. All right. So in case we haven't had the opportunity to meet yet, my name is Preston, and I get the privilege of being your associate youth pastor here at Switch. And if you've been around, then you know that we have had a word for the year, right? We've had a word for the whole semester, and that word is someone help me, environment. And so we've been taking this last semester really looking at what it looks like to cultivate some internal environments, right? And so we were looking at some things, and there were three things that we were trying to cultivate. And it is that we are prayer-driven, we are spirit-led, and we are people-focused. And we spent this whole last semester really focusing in on those things because we knew that whenever we get those things right, we will be fully devoted followers of Christ. And so this semester, we're still working on environments. What we are doing is we are looking at some external environments. So today, I'm excited because we are hopping into a new collection of sermons called Product and Creator. This is a 2-week collection. This week, I'm going to touch on product, and then next week, Pastor Taylor is going to touch on creator. And what we're going to look at is we're going to look at some external things about our environment. So my question for you today is, do you have a space that you go to that really inspires you? Like, can you think of one off the top of your head? For some of you, it might be like the gym, right? You might really like putting your earbuds in and going out and like getting a workout in and listening to music. And whenever you leave there, you really feel inspired to just go like tackle the world. You really feel inspired to just go do what you are called to do. For some of you, it might be like an art museum. You might really like to go and see all the things that people have created, like see where creativity flows and see the product that these people have put out. And maybe it makes you want to go home and create your own things. Maybe it really inspires you to go and create. For some of you, it might be going to the mall, right? You might want to go to like the mall in Tulsa. And it's seeing all of the people. It's seeing all the different clothes people are wearing. It's seeing the culture really come to life. And you have a bunch of people talking, hearing all the conversations that are happening. Maybe that inspires you. I know for me, growing up, it was always my bedroom. Like, I didn't have a job growing up when I was a kid, but what I did was anytime I got some money, I put it into making my bedroom just the vibiest place. I wanted it to be a place that inspired me. And so towards the end of high school, when I was still living with my parents, like when you walk into my bedroom, you would walk in and there was an L-shaped desk. And it really didn't make sense because you'd walk in and the L was facing this way, but it was the way that I liked it. And you would have a desktop right here. And it was a computer that I saved up money for. I was super proud of it. And then there were some bookshelves over here with a bunch of books that I never read, but I liked the vibe of them and inspired me. And then I had a king-size bed right here. And under it, I had taken some like RGB like light strips, right? You would turn them on and they would make the whole room a certain color. And so I'd have it on like pink and the whole room would just be pink, and I'd throw on some lo-fi beats through my desktop. And I had those going to these speakers that were just kind of taped everywhere because I couldn't really mount them well. But my whole room was a vibe. It inspired me. And what was wild about it was what I found out was whenever I was in the right environment, it literally changed something about me. Like when I was in my room, it actually changed the way that I thought. It really inspired me. The environment actually changed some things about me. Those books that I never read, well, what's wild is like I never really read them, but just seeing the authors' names, like having that stuff in front of me, it really changed something about me. It really put something in me. And Luke 6, verse 45 says this. It says, a good person produces good things from the treasury of a good heart, and an evil person produces evil things from the treasury of an evil heart. What you say flows from what is in your heart. And if you're taking notes, what I want you to know is that your environments will affect what is in your heart. And that's what I found out with my bedroom. So you might see it with like the rooms that you're in, right? The places that inspire you. It really will affect what's in your heart. It'll affect how you're thinking. It'll affect how you're feeling. For some of you, it's your family, right? It's your cousins, your siblings, your grandparents, your parents. Like the things that they're saying, the way that your dynamic plays out actually affects what's in your heart, positive or negative. For a lot of us, it's our friends. It's our friend group. The way we talk to each other, the way we either lift each other up or we tear each other down, the things that we talk about, the subjects that stay on our mind when we're in a group, those really affect what's in our heart. And what I found out was environments won't only affect what's in your heart, they will form you in a really short period of time. See, when I was a kid, one of my favorite things to do was to go to my grandma's house during the summer. And when, like during the school year, my life looked like a certain way, right? Like my parents, they weren't like super strict or anything, but they recognized that like structure is like a good thing, right? So like we had a certain time we went to bed, we had a certain time that we'd wake up because we had to go to school, and then like I stayed active because I was playing basketball, and then when we came home, my parents thought eating healthy was a good idea, which is like, makes sense. And so like we would eat healthy-ish, and like that's what my routine looked like during the school year. And then whenever summer hit, it was time to go to my grandma's house, just because like really wanted to. So I'd pack up my PlayStation, I'd hang out with my cousins and my sister, and we'd all go to my grandma's house. And my grandma's house was crazy. It's some of the best memories I've ever had, but it really wasn't like anything to like look at. It wasn't really a spectacular place. It was a really weirdly old home, like weirdly built old home, and you would go and like you would walk into the front door and it goes straight into the master bedroom. And you're like, what is happening? What is this? And then you would go, there was this little tiny kitchen, and then you would go and we had like this living room that was actually split in half, so that way half of it could be a bedroom. And what's wild is it wasn't a fantastic place. It wasn't crazy on the outside, but it was where I spent I've had some of my best childhood memories. And one of the things that was awesome about my grandma was that like she didn't know how to tell us no. So like you could ask grandma for anything and she would just do it. Like she was just really glad that we were there. And so when I was there, we would hook up our PlayStations to 2 different TVs. And instead of going to bed at a certain time, we'd go to bed at like 5 o'clock in the morning playing PlayStation. And then we would wake up at like 2 o'clock in the evening. And then we were hungry. What we ate for dinner was normally Snickers and a Hot Pocket. And when we were thirsty, we didn't grab water. We drank Coke and Dr. Pepper. And like my average at the time was 7 cans of pop a day. So like I was just going through them. And what was wild was I went from being in an active place to not being very active. Like I went from eating healthy to eating really unhealthy. And I went from sleeping well to not really sleeping at all. And it's because your environment can change you, and it changes you fast. All that happened not within months, not within weeks, but it would happen within days of me being there. And so so you're probably wondering what this is. We're going to call this the product shop, right? So it's got some cool things. You can come and you can shop. It's got a leather jacket. We got a belt. That's dope. We got a watch. We got some shoes. And what I want you to pay attention to is that if you look at all these things, they're all made out of the same raw materials. They're all made out of leather. The difference between these things is the environments that they came out of. They're different products of their environments, but they have the same raw materials. And what's wild is if the leather from this shoe would have went to the factory that this jacket came out of, it would have came out as a jacket. Your raw materials are there, but it matters because you're a product of your environment. And what I want you to know is that not only do these have raw materials, but you do too. God gave you some things that you actually didn't decide on. You just kind of have them, right? Like the gifts that he's given you. Some of you are just like, you're just randomly good at certain things, right? And you don't really know why, can't really put an answer to it, but some of you are just like really athletic. Like no matter what sport you seem to play, you just seem to put your thumbprint on it. You just seem to dominate at it. That's a gift. That's a raw material. Some of you are just really good at music. You can play any instrument. You don't really know why. You just kind of have an ear for it. You just kind of get it. That's a gift. That's a raw material. Another raw material would be like your personality. Like you don't really know why you're made up the way that you're made up. Sometimes you might feel like you're a little too emotional. Sometimes you might feel like you're introverted. Sometimes you might feel like you're too angry. But those are your raw materials. Those are the things you were just given. And some of it's like hereditary. These are the things that you got from your parents. Those are your raw materials. And there's a C.S. Lewis quote. C.S. Lewis is an author that I love. He's one of my favorite authors. And it says this. It says, God does not judge someone based on the raw materials at all, but on what they do with the raw materials they were given. If you're taking notes, what I want you to know is that you aren't called to change your materials. You're called to shape them. See, the manufacturer gave this person leather because they wanted them to make a leather jacket, not a steel jacket. The manufacturer gave this person leather because they wanted leather shoes, not steel shoes. The thing is, you're not called to take the raw materials you have and change them. You're called to shape them. And so what that might look like for some of you is if you feel like you're overly emotional, your goal isn't to like cancel out your emotions. Your goal isn't to get rid of them, but it's to lean into the things and form it into the thing that that your being emotional is. Like, it's a gift, right? It's a thing that you're supposed to shape it into. And you being overly emotional, when you walk into a room and you feel like you can feel the whole room and you can feel everyone's feelings, and every time you walk in, you're like, I just feel like I'm overly emotional. No, that's a superpower. You're empathetic. You can tell what people are thinking. You tell how people are feeling. Not what they're thinking. That's like telepathy. But you can tell what people are feeling. That's a superpower. You're going to be able to talk to people. You're going to be able to get people on a different level. You're going to be able to reach people on a different level. And your job isn't to get rid of your being emotional. Your job is to shape it. Your job is to understand it. For some of you, like, it's being introverted. And right now you don't feel like it's a superpower. Because like, you can't really hang with people maybe the way that you want to. Maybe you feel drained when you go and hang out with your friends for a long time. But you're not called to change it. You're called to shape it. Because with you being introverted, what that means is, like, you can really sit in the quiet in ways that extroverted people can't. Like, you can really sit there. Your prayer life can be amazing because you can sit in the silence, and you can really search for God, and you can really wait for him to get to you, to get the answer to you. Like, that is a superpower. You aren't called to change it. You're called to shape it. For some of you, it's your anger. Like, you're just really angry and you don't know why. You lash out at people. You've hurt relationships. You've broken relationships, and you feel like you don't know what to do with that. You feel like you need to get rid of your anger. But what I want to let you know is that that's just passion. You're a really passionate person. You're just pointing it in the wrong direction. And your job isn't to get rid of it. Your job is to shape it. Your job is to be able to control it. Your job is to be able to understand it. And if you're taking notes, what I want to let you know is that God took your raw materials into account when he called you. Yeah, he took them into account. So what you have to do is you have to decide how you want to shape your raw materials. So, like, for instance, one of the things we talk about a lot is that, like, we want to be fully devoted followers of Christ, right? And what that means is, like, you're taking every step you can to get closer to the person that Jesus has called you to be. One of the other things we talk about is that, like we want to be a person of integrity. We want to be a person people can trust. We want to be a person that does the truthful thing even whenever no one's looking. One of the other things that we talk about is that we want to chase the call of God in our life above all else, right? It is the thing that God has put. It is the thing that God wants to get on earth done through you. And we talk about those things a lot. And what I want you to do today is I don't want you to, like, agree with me and say that those are the things that you want to do. I want you to take some time and really contemplate. Is that how I want to be? Are those the things that I want to do? Because if you don't take time to find out how you want to be shaped, then you won't know what to do with your materials. But if you take some time, process, pray, think about these things, what kind of person do you want to be? Then once you figure out how you want your materials to be shaped, then you can get them into the environment to shape them. And so the problem most of the time isn't actually that we don't know what to do with our materials. The problem is that we normally just have our materials in the wrong environments. 1 Corinthians 15:33 says this. It says, "Do not be misled. Bad company corrupts good character." Bad company corrupts good character. See, what's wild is if I took this jacket and I took the raw materials from it, and instead of sending it to the jacket company, I took those raw materials and I sent them to the shoe company. What's it going to do? It's going to come out a shoe, right? And what's happening is a lot of times we're deciding, we've already decided in our head, no, I want to be fully devoted. I want to be a person of integrity. I want to chase the call. Like, you've decided that you want to be a certain thing. You decided you want to be a jacket, but we keep finding ourselves in the shoe companies. And we're wondering why things aren't turning out the way that we want them to. And so if you want to be fully devoted, if you want to be a fully devoted follower of Christ, there's going to be some company that you can't be around. There's some things that you can't do on Friday nights that maybe you did before, right? If you want to be a person of integrity, but every time you're around your friends, you find yourself just gossiping and lying about other people, then you are in bad company. It's time to get out of it. It's time to move to the spot that's going to get you to the place that you want to be. If you want to be a person that chases the call of God on your life above all else, like, you really chase that thing. You really get some stuff done while you're here on earth. But every time there is a mild inconvenience, or every time there is something else that looks more fun, you decide to do that over the thing that God has called you to, then you're in bad company. You're not in the right environments. I know there was a time for me when I found out that I needed to get out of the environment that I was in. I had just started following Jesus, and I was really, really passionate about it. And I was like still being invited to parties because I was kind of doing this like, just kind of foot in both doors kind of thing. And I was like, you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to go to the parties, and I'm just going to talk to him about Jesus. It's going to be great. It's going to be awesome. And so I go to this party I'm invited to, and I'm hanging out with the friends that I was just hanging out with a week before, that I was just drinking with a week before, that I was just smoking things with a week before. And I was like, I get there, and because they couldn't have known. They're like, hey bro, you want to drink this? And I was like, no, I'm good. And they were like, okay, are you okay? Like, why not? What's going on? I was like, no guys, I follow Jesus now. And they were like, so what are you doing here? And I was like, I'm here to talk to y'all about Jesus. And man, I told myself all the same excuses, right? I was like I was really amping myself up to be there. I was like, Jesus went to parties. He drank wine at the wedding. And if that's your excuse, I want you to know you are not Jesus. So you can't say no to all the things that Jesus said no to. And the other thing that I was like, well, my friends need saved too. If I'm not reaching them, who's reaching them? Because I don't know any pastors that are going to parties. Turns out it's because it's not a good idea. But at the time, I was like, I'm really going to pioneer this thing, right? And if you're taking notes, what I want you to know is the thing that I found out. And it's that you can't help people form their raw materials if you haven't started forming your own. And so what I found out was that I actually didn't need to be in those environments. I needed to step out of them. And I was able to take some time, and I was really able to just work on myself. I was really able to do the thing that I was telling you guys to do before. I was really able to lock in, what do I want to be? Who do I want to be? Do I want to be a fully devoted follower of Christ? Do I want to be these other things? I'm giving you 3 specific examples, but it's broader than that, right? Do I want to be fully devoted? Do I want to be a person of integrity? But also, do I want to one day be a good husband? Do I also one day want to be a good father? There were all these things that I decided, these are the things I want to do with my raw materials. And what I started to do was really put it up against the company I was with. Are they forming their raw materials the same way? Because if not, they're not bad people, they're just bad company. I don't want my raw materials in that company because I don't want it to come out the way that I want it to come out as. So I took some time and I worked on myself and really, I already said it, but that is my encouragement for you today, is to really just take some time and process who do I want to be? What do I want to do with my raw materials? And so what I found out was once I stepped out of the bad environments that I was in, I could finally step in to the right environments. And so your question might be, how do we find out what the right environments are? And the way that I found out was I really started to ask myself those questions that I was telling you about. What do I want to do with my life? What do I want to do with my raw materials? What do I want my life to look like? And the best advice I can give you, the most practical step I can give you, is to find people who have the life that you're shooting for. And people aren't perfect, but at least find people who are further or closer to that thing, to that life, than you are. And my encouragement to you is just to ask them questions. Get around them. Let them form you. Give them some of your raw materials so they can form them. For instance, if you are feeling called to be a musician, and you think that you need to play music, you need to play worship, God is calling you to do something like that, my encouragement to you is to get around a musician that absolutely crushes it. Get around a worship pastor that you think is doing a good job, that is closer to the thing that you feel like you're called to do, and ask them every single question. Just get around them. If you're called to be a teacher, then get around a teacher that you feel like is a good teacher and ask them how they did it. Ask them how they walked out the call that's on their life. If you're called to be a doctor, get around some good doctors. Ask them questions. See what it's like to be a doctor that's walking out the call on their life. If you're called to start a business, get around a good business person. Get around a good entrepreneur and ask them questions. How do I do this? How would you do this? How do I get this done? How do I do this in a way that is honoring God? If you feel like you're called to be a pastor, talk to a pastor. Talk to me, talk to Taylor, talk to any of the pastors here, and we would love to answer your questions, to talk to you, to pull the gold out, to form some of your raw materials with you. And if you're in here, and I've been listing off the things, I want to be fully devoted, I want to be a person of integrity, I want to be a person that really honors the call of God on my life. If that's you, and you have already said yes to those things, then I want to read you Proverbs 27 verse 17. It says, as iron sharpens iron, so one person sharpens another. If that's you and you already know, like that's where I want to be. That's what I want to do with my raw materials. I want to honor God with them. I want to be as fully devoted as I can. Then my encouragement to you is to be here. Like, I honestly think this place forms raw materials so well. And I know I'm biased because I'm the associate youth pastor of this place, but I'm also a product of this place. I was sitting in your seat not that long ago, asking these same questions, trying to figure out what I need to do, how I can form the raw materials that I have, and it was this place that formed them. It was the leaders here that formed them, that answered my questions, that helped move me in the directions when I didn't know where to go. And so my encouragement to you is to be here. And I know you're already here, but my encouragement to you is actually like really get plugged in. Like, don't just stand up during worship and sit down during the sermon. Like, my encouragement to you is like talk in tribes. Ask your tribe leaders some questions. Open up a little bit. Like, act like the raw materials you have are going to be shaped no matter what you do with them. So like, make it a priority to put them here, to have them be formed here. And some of you, you're hearing me talk about this, and maybe in the past you've heard Taylor tell some stories about like his childhood, and like he has like there's some pretty wild stories there. And you're like, well, like I'm already being formed. Like I have a good childhood. Like my raw materials are being formed at home. And yes, they are, and that's awesome that you have great parents. But I have great parents also. Like I have amazing parents. Actually, my parents, I would say, are like probably in the top 10% of all parents in the whole world. I love my parents. They did a great job. But what I want to let you know is that the call of God on your life is so big that it can't be formed in a household. It has to be formed in community. And so my encouragement to you is to lean in, like really be here. And if you feel like you've already formed your raw materials and you feel like you're already a shoe and you wanted to be a jacket, what I want to let you know is that it's not too late. We have a God that stands out of space and time, and he can do whatever he wants to do if you will just let him. He can take this, he can disassemble it and turn it into a jacket, and it will be pain-free. And so my encouragement to you is to lean in. And I got a really practical step for you, and that is I was formed by this place, by leaders here. And what I want to let you know is that you don't just have one leader here. You don't just have two leaders here that want to help you form your raw materials. You have 50 of them. There are 50 leaders here every single week, and their whole job, the whole reason that they're here is to help form your raw materials into the person that God has called you to be. And that is what is amazing about this place. That's what I love about this place. And my encouragement for you today is to find your leader. Find the one leader that you feel like, like they're forming their raw materials in a way that I would like to form mine. They're further in this thing than I am, and make that leader your person. Decide this is the person that's going to help me form my raw materials, and I promise if you will do that, then you will form the raw materials into the incredible thing that God has always intended them to be. Let's pray.